Got both my knobs installed. Now what I'm going to do is install my jet tubes. You are going to want to use your super glue for this, so I'm just going to give this little cavity that the jet tube is going to sit in a really good coating, and then I'm going to let that set up for a little bit. Try and get it along the edges of your 2mm craft foam as well, so it will really stick on there. Alright, I've let this set up a bit, and now I'm going to apply my jet tubes, and I just want to make sure that I have this little eyelet facing forward. And as I'm holding that in place, I'm going to take my other side, again making sure the eyelet is facing forward. And whoops, and I'm gonna lose a jet nozzle. That's okay, I'll glue it back on, but we'll just leave these pressing them in place. I've given this some time to set up and reattached my little jet nozzle there. The next thing that we are going to do is to take our plain black strips that are 1/8 of an inch wide, and we're going to apply them all along this edge where the tube meets the main body of the jetpack. And I'm going to be starting and ending the strip here at this join on the back, because I've got glue strings everywhere. This is going to be covered up by one of the bands with the rivets on. So these strips are going to be probably a little bit longer than you needed. I made them a little bit longer just in case. So you may have to cut one end down slightly, but better too long than not long enough. Now, your choice. I like to apply the glue on the back of the foam strip and then lay it down, because I can control where it's going and how much glue is on there. But if you feel more comfortable putting the line of glue onto your jetpack and then pushing your strip on, that's perfectly okay too. Alright, so I've reached the back, and I did need to chop off about 1 inch of my foam strip. I'm just going to apply a tiny bit of hot glue on that cut edge, and when I hold it down, it should join. And as I mentioned before, we're going to be covering this, so if it doesn't look all that pretty, it's not a big deal. Just have one more little tip for you. I noticed as I was starting to do this, this side has a bit more of a gap between the tube and the body. So if that happens, you can just fill that in with a little bit of hot glue. If you're using a low temp glue gun like I am, you might be able to just run your finger along much the same way as you would do if you were adding caulking to a joint on your baseboards or something like that. And if you go ahead, add that glue, give it some time to set up so it's good and set and dry and cooled down, and then apply your strip, you'll have a little bit more of a base to put that strip on if you have a big gap. Now that my black strips are on, we're going to start applying these bands. If you look, you can see that there are 2 that are right in the middle. So what we're going to want to do is get these 2 middle brads centered on the back of our jetpack, and we're going to place it along to hide this seam. So I'm just going to place a little bit of glue onto my jetpack here to get started. 2, 3, and these are the middle 2, so I'm going to lay them down and try and center them as much as possible. And then we're going to continue gluing these bands, bringing them around to the front and the edge meeting up with our black strip. As you're bringing it around, just make sure that you eyeball it and line it up visually with that side. Once you've got that band in place, we're going to put our small ones on it, and there's no specific place that you have to put them. They're just meant to go somewhere up near the top, so you can kind of play around and see where you would like them to go. The only thing that you need to make sure is that you're lining them up visually so that they are at the same spot on your jetpack. And again, we're just going to glue them around till they meet in the back at that black strip. We are ready to install our hoses. So you need one piece that is about 3¼ inches long, and that one's going to go from here to here. And then you need one that is about 2¾ inches long, and that one's going to go from here to here. You'll need to change those sizes depending on whether or not you use the same doodads as me, and you're probably also just going to have to measure because we likely put things in slightly different spots. I'm using a pair of jewelry pliers to just put a bend in one end of the longer piece of weed whacker line. This is going to sit on top in that eyelet that I put on top of the goo canister there. You can heat this up to make it a little more pliable, but I'm always pretty cautious about heating plastics up because if you don't know exactly what the content of this is, it could produce toxic fumes. So be careful. I'm just going to add a tiny bit of glue into the top of that eyelet there so that when I stick my piece of hose in, hopefully it's going to stay, and I'll give it a second to set up and just make sure I've got it at the right angle that I can stick it in there. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this guy down here. Just a bit of hot glue. Stick that in and hold it in place till it sets. And then we're basically going to do the same thing for the other side here. I'm going to do the bottom one first because this nozzle on the front is a bit deeper. And just stick that in there, give it some time to set up, and then I'm gonna go and clean off my jetpack of all the little glue strings and globs of hot glue that may be clinging to it. There's quite a few glue strings, so I'm gonna get that all cleaned up, and then we're going to work on getting all of our straps installed. First off, I've noticed that I have not placed a hole for the buckle strap where it's going to be riveted onto the shoulder strap, and sorry, I forgot to put that on both the 18-inch doll size and the A Girl for All Time size. So this is the 18-inch size. What I'm going to do is just use my jetpack middle strap to mark the rivet placement because it's going to be in the same place, and give that a quick punch using my crocodile. And then the next thing that we're going to have to do is install our buckles. So for this strap, I know that I'm going to want to have the buckle facing like so. So I'm going to make sure I've got the prong falling on the right side and feed this through. Insert the prong into the hole that I've punched. Push it back out through the strap. And have it like that. Now I'm going to have to sew these two pieces together. I find it helpful to put just a little piece of double-sided tape there to keep the pieces of the strap aligned. So if you think that you want to do that, go ahead. Similarly, we are going to be applying the buckle to this end of the bottom strap. So I'm actually just going to flip this over. We want the buckle to be lying like this as well, so making sure your prong is laying on the correct side. Feed it through. Put the prong through that hole that you punched. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take these to my sewing machine, and using a leather needle I'm going to stitch these pieces of the strap together. Alright, now that we've got the buckle sewn, what we're going to do is rough up about 1 inch of the top of the shoulder straps. And the reason that we're doing that is to make it easier for the leather to adhere to our jetpack. So I'm just using an emery board. It's quite a coarse one. And I'm just going to go ahead and rough up this leather. Till it looks like that. And you can tell which end that you need to do because you're going to have your rivet holes on the bottom side. This is the top that's going to be attaching to the top of the jetpack. So go ahead, get those roughed up, and then I'm going to apply some super glue to this part that I've roughed up and let it get tacky, and then we're going to attach it onto the back of our jetpack. Alright, I've put some glue on these and given them some time to get tacky. So what we're going to do is place the top that you've roughed up and glued pretty close to that black strip that we applied around the outside edge, and just give it a little pressure to help that glue adhere. Same thing on the other side here. Give it a little pressure. I just realized after I got these shoulder straps on that I forgot to attach the grill. So before I go ahead and unplug my glue gun, I'm just going to apply some hot glue to the back of my grill. Oops, I'm going to stick my fingers to it and stick it right on top. Before we adhere the bottom strap to the back of the jetpack, what we're going to do is get all the other pieces riveted in place while this is still fairly free so that it's a little easier to work with. Alright, before we go any further, we're going to attach our little straps onto our shoulder straps. And you can reverse the order if you like. Just make sure when you put your bottom strap on that you're having your buckles on the same side and your pieces with the holes on the same side. So I've already got this one prepped here. What you're going to want to do is take your rivet back, put your smaller strap over the top of that first, and then insert it through the shoulder strap so that the shoulder strap's on the top, and then pop the cap on. And I'm going to go ahead and set these rivets off camera, and then we're going to get the bottom strap attached to our jetpack, and then we will rivet these. As I was looking at this bottom strap, I realized that I had forgotten to put a mark for where we're going to be riveting this bottom strap to the shoulder strap. So the new pattern pieces that will be sent out with the newsletter will have the updated pieces with the marking on it. Now what we're going to do is kind of mark where we want to center this strap on the back of the jetpack. Because we know that this part is going to overlap the buckle when we are securing it onto the doll, we don't want to just fold this in half and mark it. So I'm going to go from the edge of the buckle to about the second hole and just quickly mark that with chalk. And then I've measured my back bit here. It's about 2 1/4. So using that as a guide, I'm going to mark off about 2 1/4 inches on the back of this strap so that I can use my emery board to rough this area up. Once you've roughed that area up, you're going to apply some glue, give it a little while to get tacky, and then you want to make sure that you have your buckle on the same side as your other little buckle. And just going to mark this with my fingers, lay that in place, press it, and let it sit for a little bit. All right, the final step is to get the shoulder strap secured to the bottom strap using your rivets. So I am going to bring my rivet back up through the bottom strap first and then through the shoulder strap. Pop a cap on there, and we'll do the same thing for the other side. Bring a rivet back up through the bottom strap and then through the shoulder strap, and pop the cap in place. Now go ahead and set those rivets. And there we go. Finished jetpack. I hope you enjoyed this video series on how to make a steampunk jetpack for your dolls. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and share with your friends. The more exposure I get, the better the chance I can keep on making these videos for you guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so and hit the notification bell so you know when I post new content. Thanks for watching, everybody.